Who doesn't like chocolate? So we are going to do a quick video on how to do the perfect hand-drawn graph. And yes, this is something called Giddy Yo-Yo chocolate. My wife and my family are a little bit addicted to it. It's not cheap. So we're going to do an average monthly chocolate cost graph. Okay, so this is by month. So if you can see at the top there, we have average monthly chocolate cost. Yes, this is not a graph, this is a t-table, but the t-table is what happens before the graph. So remember, average monthly, that's going to be my independent variable. And then I have chocolate cost, which is going to be the y variable. Okay, so as we go down, remember I have my x in brackets in month. The next column is going to be the y in brackets, the cost, and the measurement of units. No measurement of units in the t-table itself. Now these are all fictitious. We don't actually spend $100 on chocolate, or even, well, we probably do spend $30 on chocolate some month. Okay, so here's my graph. I've already done some of the pre-work on it. Couple really big things. Number one, the title must look exactly the same or read the same as my t-table. That's one of the biggest keys. Most people leave off the title. Now, if you are doing your graphs in Excel or numbers, I remember there are some things in here that you won't be able to put in because the computer does it for you. So that's the first one. The next one is down here. I have my x-axis label. Should be exactly the same as my x label on my t-table, month and month. There's no units in months, so I don't have to worry about that. Then on this side, number 3, is I have a label on my y-axis. And look at that. It's the exact same as my y side of my t-table. Notice here I also do have my units, just like I had in my t-table, in brackets. Okay. Now the next thing. I looked at my numbers here, and my smallest one is 10. My biggest one was 100. When you're graphing, you want the graph, the bars or the line, to take up as much as the graph as possible. So when I was looking at my piece of paper here, I counted from the bottom to the top. I kind of made it this way specifically. So I would have 20 squares of my graph paper to get to 100. So now, every other square is going to be my main marking. The other thing with this y-axis scale is that you don't want to put like 1, 2, 3, 4. You don't want to write all the tiny little numbers in there. We don't need to see that, right? Remember, we're looking at trends. We're not looking to get the exact number off of this graph. So in here, every little tick is a 5. Then my second square is going to be a big tick, and that's going to be a 10. So I have 10, 20, 30, all the way up to 100. This is going to stretch my graph out. If I did it all in this tiny little spot, most of my page would have been empty. And on the bottom, on the x-axis, which is down along here, right? Remember, 2x has 2 legs on the ground, so it's always the one that goes horizontal. I looked at how many spaces I had, and I had exactly 24. Well, I didn't have exactly 24. I drew it exactly 24, which enables me to do every second square on my graph paper. I'm going to make that my bar width. Now, my first point in January is 30. Now, I want you to use rulers. Because of the speed I've got to do this, I'm going to just hand draw it. If I fill that in, you can see that January is 2 squares wide. Every bar has to be the same width. Because this one is a range that's all related, January to February, I'm going to be drawing a histogram, no spaces in between. The other thing I want you to be aware of is if you're doing a line graph, you're not going to use the space. But if I'm doing a line graph, I'm going to use that hash mark as my point. So my point would be there. Okay? What do I have for February? February is 20. So now I'm just going to create this graph as I go. March is 40. Etc., etc. And you would be using a ruler. What would you use? Exactly, a ruler. Don't hand me in something that's all scratchy and scribbly and looks like you did it in 30 seconds, like I'm doing here. Okay? I showed you some exemplars of perfect hand-drawn graphs in class. That's what we're looking for. And again, play around with the color. right? That's the one thing I'm giving you freedom for. If you want to highlight one, like the 100 in April, make that one green. Make the other ones blue, however you want to play with it. Okay? So one more time, title, X and Y axis labels. You need your scale on the bottom, bars or spacing is going to be the same, and the scale on the y-axis needs to go up in increments that will use the majority of your graphing area. And remember, please don't write in all the tiny little numbers. If you were going up by ones here, so 10 was your max, then you can go up by ones. Other than that, skip count, 2, 3, 5s, 10s, 100s, whatever you need. Thanks, guys, and remember, you can never, ever have a day when you don't actually need chocolate. So if you like chocolate, eat it. It'll make you feel better.